go right here, and then.
It's probably recording on YouTube.
I know.
Good morning.
Good.
I'll do it again because it's usually hazy in the very first half a minute. Good morning from Cynthia Rose Healing Art Sanctuary in very snowy Monument, Colorado. We're in perfect time today in flow. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have some people joining us for our morning alignment. And as you know, it is important to align on a daily basis or even on a moment-to-moment basis in the understanding that we're mindful about what we're co-creating with the unified field or the quantum field. We can have a more conscious and mindful, I said mindful twice again, a more beneficial experience because we are responsible for what we're creating here. And okay, so today, what is coming up for me? I'm going to go on a rant, all right? So what's coming up for me today and what's coming back into my field of awareness again today is other people's narratives and judgments and projections and basically BS as it relates to one another. But specifically, I'm having an experience of somebody choosing to write a narrative about me that is not my truth, that is decidedly pretty ugly as it relates to their perception of who in their mind's eye I need to be in order for them to feel comfortable with the situation that they're having right now. And it really has nothing to do with me at all. So we're talking about aligning. I'm going to just read the title: Aligning with Personal Integrity, Knowing Your Truth, Being Self-Aware, and Understanding Projections. And I have my special guest here again today, Sheldon Ray Bird.
Hello.
And he has some things to speak to on the topic as well. So, all right, where do we want to start with this?
Well, I guess it's always nice to start with basics in case people don't know what we're talking about.
Right.
With story writing, it's not just pen and paper or typing out like short story, character development, all that stuff. But it's about creating a narrative in our heads about, in this case specifically, we're talking about other people. A lot of times it's easy to jump onto judgment and, filling in gaps where there are no gaps. For example, if you, I guess I can't think of an example right now, but, just making up stuff about people, but it's like...
Yeah, it's like what you're getting at is when you don't have enough information about a situation to feel comfortable with it, often what you do is begin to create a narrative or a story about the situation and the people so that you can try to sort through something and get into a place of feeling more comfortable or in charge or empowered or whatever. And that's actually a very disempowered way of doing things because you're making assumptions and speaking to what is true for other people, which is projection.
Yeah.
Okay. Very basic projection. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. All right. So is there more that you wanted to say about that? Because that's really valuable for a starting point.
Yeah, I think we could just go from there.
Okay. All right. So story writing. Right. And we do that in our own experience too. So, the reason that the reason that we do it with other people is because it's habitual. We do it with ourselves too. We are creators and story writers and all that, but we need to be very mindful about what the stories are that we're creating in our own experience as it relates to ourselves and to one another. And if I don't know a situation and I'm trying to figure it out, then the only thing that is going to be true are the facts, okay? And then if I give that other person the opportunity to speak to what is true for them and hear them out. But we do a lot of making assumptions, and then from the assumption comes a story, and it's very, very irresponsible. It is not mindful. It is not kind. And my heart hurts right now because I just went into that space of feeling what was said about me. And again, I know my truth, but it still doesn't feel good when someone else decides that they're going to hold me with a certain view of me and state that as true. And then what happens is they're projecting out from their energetic field. And we've talked a lot about energy and being responsible with your energy. They're projecting a story about me that holds energy in it that is very of a she's persecuting, or this person is persecuting me for something that isn't true, isn't mine. It's her stuff. So I don't do well with the not he she thing. So I apologize for, I'm not trying to be impolite, but and I can see that there's a good possibility that these projections are coming from places inside of this person that feel uncomfortable and uncertain and maybe a little confused. And so then that gets taken and shot at me like an arrow. And I do feel these things. I pick up on the energy, and I feel like Sheldon can probably talk a little bit more about the energy of things, but I feel like you have something to say about that. But I pick up on what's contained in the energy of those projections, and I feel it in my field. And it does have the potential to create a distorted thought pattern in my own head, because she's projecting it out about me and at me as true, because in her mind, she's decided that it's true. It's not true. Not for me. And, I looked at it. So when we have someone do something like that to us and they're like, well, this is, I was at one point, my whole family thought I was in a cult and yada, yada. And I'm like, well, that's an easy one. I mean, yeah, not true. Not in any way, shape, or form true. But when somebody's projecting out at you something that, okay, so for instance, if they're saying that you took advantage of someone and that's who you are, and you're a person who takes advantage of people, and that it's wrong, and you're basically an ugly human being, then I can sit with that and I can look at that and I can say, is there any part of me inside of myself where I feel that that's true? Or is that a program that's true for me somewhere? Do I feel or think those things about myself? And I can look at this particular situation and there's no part of me that aligns with, I took advantage of that person. No part of me. And this has been something that's come at me several times from several different places, and it's like, I know my truth, and in no way, if anything, it was more the opposite, that I was being taken advantage of. That's okay, because that's a free will choice on my part. No one can really take advantage of you. You can just agree to be taken advantage of. So, it's like no part of me aligns with that or agrees with that or thinks that that's true, so it's okay. It's not mine. So I can determine that projected thought pattern and that, stuff isn't mine. It's coming from that other person and it's theirs. Okay. So, because we do help ourselves out when we have interactions with people out here in the external world. A lot of the time we're trying to show ourselves where we have some subconscious programs that actually align with what is being said or projected out here. So I can look at that and I could go, okay, I know the foundation upon which I stand, and that is not true for me. That's not my truth. It's not the experience that I had with it. So, okay, cool. Then I can feel not tortured by it, Anyway, I feel like I want to pass that over to you because I need a second to gather my thoughts.
Yeah. So, first of all, I want to say hello, everyone who's joining. Hello, Brooke. It's good to see you again. Yeah.
Brooke says, first I thought the stuffed bear Cynthia was holding was a roll of toilet paper.
That'd be a way to show off.
That's so great. Look at me. Well, it could be toilet paper.
Oh, God.
No. Have you ever seen the meme with the bear with the rabbit? And he's like, does it bother you when your shit sticks to your fur? Or when you have shit stuck to your fur? And the rabbit's like, no, not at all. And the bear takes the rabbit and he wipes his butt with the rabbit. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anyway, back to Sheldon.
Yeah. So I guess on the other side of that, there is such thing as story writing where it tends to help sometimes, which is a weird thing to think. But in my early healing journey, like I didn't think very highly of myself. I didn't really believe in the things I could do because, I thought that other more skilled people would be doing them and not me. But then there are people who come into my life, like some people in my family, some people in these groups that I was in, which Rick was a part of one of them. And, like just really helping me realize that I am capable. I am a lot more, I have a lot more strength than I think I do. And whenever I found myself around them, I felt more self-empowered in those ways. So like, in a way, them writing that type of story about me helped me come into myself a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And it really depends on where you're coming from with that, because I can't do a direct quoting, but I heard that there was a story in the Bible about how in Jesus's hometown, he couldn't really do all the miracles that he could because people are like, oh, it's Yeshua, the carpenter guy. I remember he built my house. It's just like, whatever. But outside of
regular
town,
dude.
yeah, and then outside of town, people knew him as like the dude who was doing all those miracles.
Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's like sometimes he had to take people out of town to do the things and then like bring them back in, because people's belief on you has a direct effect on your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're like projecting out like massive light, like that still is a factor.
Oh.
And so, that speaks to another reason why it's important to have people who support you around you. Because if there are people who constantly doubt you, who constantly shit on you and, all that stuff, it just really doesn't help, even if you have a strong sense of self.
Yeah.
Like it brings you down even when you don't fully know. And, so that's why I like being supportive. And I always see people in their highest, because then they have room to grow into that,
mm-hmm.
more than just being a regular old human being, but like a fully realized, like strong human being. So I guess that's what I have to say about that for now.
Yeah.
Sometimes it helps, but it depends on where they're coming from, because like Cynthia was saying, if they're coming from a place of judgment, then it definitely brings you down, and that sucks.
Mm-hmm. And it speaks to, again, I'll kind of go back to this, how important it is for each individual to know what our own truth is. Like the Bible has a lot of amazing wisdom in it. Know thyself, to thyself be true. Whether that came from the Bible or not, I don't know. But yeah, to thine own self be true. Know yourself, know your truth. And we live the way that we live now in society. We're very close to one another, but we're close to strangers. We're close to people we don't know. We're in the energetic fields and the thought patterns in their energetic fields of people that we don't know. So it's very hard if we don't have space around us, or if we don't take time to go out into nature or take space and be in solitude, and we're always around other people, whether it's, in our own space or in spaces around us. It's very difficult for us to have a baseline of what is normal and what is actually ours, in the thoughts that we're having and the feelings that we're having about our own experience. And, I know when I have thought patterns that are coming into my field that aren't mine, because they're very judgmental. And that is not my natural state of being here. Never has been. And I know myself, and I've spent a lot of time alone from the time that I was a little tiny girl. I grew up in the country, so I was outside on my own all the time, almost always alone. And I was happy with that. That was cool. I liked it, because I wasn't alone. I was surrounded by beings everywhere, and knowing yourself and knowing what is normal for you is really, really, really important, because if you don't know what's normal for you, it is almost impossible to disintegrate the things that don't belong to you, and that's where each and every one of us needs to be so much more mindful and so much more responsible about the projections, that what we're projecting out into the world in our own thoughts, feelings, and narratives about one another. Let's write narratives about one another that are supportive and uplifting, and in resonance and alignment with the truth of the power and beauty of that being that resides in that other person, because that's a part of you too. And in understanding that when we are talking about other people, we are actually talking about ourself, okay? Because that is not disconnected from you on a higher realm. That's a part of you. So if you're saying, well, this person is that, and this and that, and this and that, and it's nasty and ugly and judgmental, then there's some stuff inside of you that you got to have a look at. Because people that are well balanced, harmonious, non-judgmental within themselves don't feel the need to do that and judge people outside of them. It's like, wow, I can see that they're uncomfortable and they're having an experience that I'm feeling uncomfortable with, but I don't need to judge that person for it. The behavior isn't great, but we're here to learn and teach. And what are we showing in the example that we're setting as we move forward in this time of great change? These are really important topics. Be mindful, be supportive of one another, be responsible with the things that you're thinking about yourself and one another. And we have the power to change this whole world if we choose to align with the goodness within ourselves and with those other versions of self. And we all came here to play roles for one another that are valuable and important. And, we can move into a place of moving beyond the suffering that we have caused ourselves and one another. We can move beyond that because we have the gift of free will. And I keep saying this, we can now at this point in time make the free will choice to be more kind, more compassionate, more considerate, more mindful. And we can own our own shit. Own your shit. Don't make it somebody else's stuff when it's not theirs. It's not cool. We got to stop doing that. And yeah, I'm really passionate about that. And I've learned how not to do that. And if I am doing it in any way at all, I catch myself. And that's me holding myself responsible for the presence that I am here on the planet and the example that I'm setting for both myself and other people. And I have 2 children who are watching me as their example, and that helps, and they're setting a great example for me. My kids are amazing. Look at your children and look at how they behave and look at where your responsibility is in all of that, and stop pointing your fingers at one another. Be kind, be willing to see the beauty in things, even when it doesn't look so pretty on the surface, and I understand that the reason that there's this projection happening right now is because perhaps that person's feeling frightened and threatened maybe by my presence. And, I can be kind and compassionate about that, but I can also say, hey, don't do that. Not cool. That's not mine. I'm not owning it. So over to Sheldon. That was my part of my rant.
I don't have much else to say.
You don't have much else to say?
That.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like what you had to say about, using the writing of the narrative to actually support one another. And here's the thing, when we have an experience like what I'm having now, and, I've had a good number of experiences with people misinterpreting or, deciding that they know what's true for me when they don't know me at all. It pushes me more into integrity with my truth. Okay. So I'm choosing how I'm using that, and I'm like, okay, well, I know what's true for me. I could do the check-in. Is there any part of that projection that's true for me? Not in this case. There's not. Nope, not at all. Okay. And I'm being very honest with myself in that. And I can look at facts, all facts, and I can say, okay, well, I'm still standing on a solid foundation here. Okay. I can feel good about how I showed up and who I am as a human being. And if there's anything that I do need to look at, I'll look at that with love. And I can move forward more empowered because I do know what my truth is, and I can be more empowered to actually speak my truth and maybe potentially in time sit down with that person and say, can we talk about this and these things that, these stories that you're writing about me? Because I don't want you to feel these things and think these things and feel whatever it is that's underlying that. That's not fun for you either, Yeah. So, being compassionate about what creates the need to write stories is important too, it's because we're uncomfortable, and we're maybe afraid a little bit. So, and again, free will choice, we can use any experience to grow and evolve and be more kind and loving and know ourselves better. and then in that be willing to know one another more, on deeper levels, and with something, I guess, with grace, and so I'm grateful for this experience. It gave me something to share. It's giving me an opportunity to stand, empowered in my truth. And going forward, I trust that I will be able to handle all things with grace. So, is there anything on there? It would be
Hey, Andy. It's my old manager.
Oh, hi. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I see Tiffany will be having a little vacation right now because she works in a school.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Is there anything else that I wanted to speak to? So, yeah.
There's a few things that I just want to touch on. I haven't read the 4 Agreements, the whole entire book, but I have had some really interesting experiences with it. So, one of the 4 little things, one of the agreements is to not take things seriously, or not seriously, personally.
Take nothing seriously.
That's
that might be bad advice.
Yeah. But not to take anything personally, because it's not about you all the time. And I have been following that just before I even read that, because a lot of times we experience and react to things based on where we're coming from, as we've been saying. And, so if someone has a reaction to me or a reaction to something I love, I usually don't jump to hey, now they're really they're bad people because they don't like the thing I like, including me. But
including me.
It's I guess it's a form of patience to realize that it's them dealing with their own internal belief systems. For example, generations ago, it was normal to be racist.
Right.
It's normal to be extremely sexist, to the point where anytime you heard anything other than that, you're like, well, that's dumb. But as we know, it's not. It's just that form, that mental form that creates that expectation of how things should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so
programming.
Yes. and so I always take that into account whenever anyone has any opinions, even the good ones, because for me personally, I like electronic music, but I also know that there are other people who really, really don't like it because it's not actually music. And I get it, and that's just an example of something I love that people openly don't like, but I accept that it's just their programs, the way they think, that makes them think that. And I don't take it personally. I think not all of it's good. So
right.
Yeah.
And we don't all have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's good to know where we're coming from, and that's why I usually try to do a deep dive as to why things are. I hear this thing, people are like, it explains it but doesn't excuse it. That's a thing that people have said before.
I like that.
And it's true. And I think it depends on where you're coming from with assumptions too, because I have some friends who there's something crazy going on they have with people, and I just offer a little dampener, let's say they're having an issue with someone at work and they're just really inconsiderate. I'm like, well, they must not have had a lot of acceptance as kids, and they get the person I'm talking to gets a little angry because of that, because they think I'm just excusing them, oh no, they're fine because they had that thing.
Yeah, making an excuse.
Yeah, that's not where I'm coming from at all. I'm just dampening, okay, they did something not very helpful. That's cool. But just understand that there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're right because of it, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that brings up, the way that I used to talk to my kids about bullying. It's not about the person being bad. The behavior is just not something that we want to see here. So and I always encourage the children to have an understanding of why people act the way that they do, so that they're not just looking at the surface level and saying, oh, well, this is terrible, so that must equal this person is terrible, and it's like, no, there's a reason that people behave the way that they do. And I know, if you go into your own experience and you think about the times that you have lost your shit, on someone else, what was happening inside of you, that you lost your shit and acted inappropriate and acted in a way that you wouldn't normally act. And you weren't acting from a place of kindness and love and compassion. What was happening inside of you? Were you scared? And then think about that with somebody who maybe has a little less self-control, who hasn't learned to manage those things productively inside of themselves. And it's all just getting like barfed all over everything. People who are hurting inside are the people that are hurting other people, but not everybody who hurts inside hurts other people. It's personal choice, and it is a free will choice. So we're just asking one another to do better here. But in order for everyone to do better, everyone needs to understand that there is it's not just valuable, it's necessary for us to be deeply compassionate about the reasons why we have dysfunctional behavior, which is what Sheldon is touching on. Why is the bully the bully? Think about what might be going on without story writing and without making assumptions, but where can we find a compassionate presence within ourselves for what might be happening that's leading to that? And then when we evolve even more and we get more courageous, we can start having conversations with the bullies. And saying, hey, talk to me about what's really going on here, and I see this as being, right now we're being invited to either grow or not. And that's a personal choice. And if each and every one of you can go within yourselves and see what you're choosing to do with this right now, and what presence do you want to be on the planet? And we're here to help. There's a lot of us here. There are a lot of us here who have maybe a more expanded awareness of how this whole thing works, because we're doing the work so that we can share the information and help the rest of you understand how in a loving way. And this is a time of great change. And this is a time for us to understand what our responsibility is, not only to ourselves, but to one another here. We have to come together as a human race. If we want to see this go in a direction that's actually helpful and beautiful, then it's time. And, thank you for listening to this, because, it took me a long time to get to a place of understanding how all of this works in a way that I could relate the information in the way that I do now. And I'm still learning and growing too, and I look forward to learning and growing with all of you. And what was the other thing that I wanted to say? So I think, is there anything more that you'd like to say? Because I think I'd like to do a little alignment practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I love everything that, do you have anything to say? Sorry. I asked if you had anything to say and you said, yeah.
Well, no. I meant.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, you got it.
So Sheldon has offered some really valuable insights on that as well. And again, we're here. There are other healing practitioners here who understand how to help you, see some of the things that are buried in your subconscious. I'm trained to do that. So I can definitely, I'll do a little blip on the emotion code. I just did 17 emotion code sessions, and you can look up the emotion code on you can Google it. And I'll speak more about it maybe tomorrow. I just didn't feel like speaking to my business today, because that's not where my head is. And I have to honor where I'm aligned and what feels valuable for me each day. So I did have the intention of speaking more about my healing practice, but I'll do that either tomorrow or the day after, depending on how I feel. So the emotion code is something that actually has a look at what is buried. And Sheldon was working with me as a surrogate in this, helping me in my sessions. And, when we go into the subconscious of someone's field, we can see all the stuff that's trapped in there that is informing that person in ways that they're not aware of until we pull it into the conscious, into the levels of consciousness where we can be aware of it. So it's a really cool and very easy and quick way to kind of unearth some of the stuff that you've been walking around with for a long time. And it helps you understand why you're operating in certain patterns. So, and the people that I did the sessions for, well, I guess there were 15 people and 2 animals, but they had some pretty good feedback on what their experience was with the feedback that I gave them from the sessions and how that was actually meaningful to them. And they were able to see how these things had been, distorted programs in their lives. So, again, I'm here to work with you and help you see some of the stuff that that's buried in it's really in your energetic field or your subconscious, or it's not stored in the mind, it's stored in your field and as such in the tissues and organs of your body. So, and sometimes, time. So yeah, exactly. It's not, and it's not locked into a certain period of time. It's epigenetic. It's, it goes into other lifetimes and all kinds of stuff. So, I would encourage anybody to work with me.
Yeah.
Specifically me. I'm like, just going to be honest.
I second that.
Yeah.
You're good at what you do.
Thank you. Do you want to speak a little more to that?
Sure.
Stroke my ego a bit today?
Yeah. So, first of all, Cynthia, legit.
I won't make my cheesy joke again.
Too legit. Yeah. She's not going to quit. She's too legit.
I'm super, super legit. I work hard to be legit too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, on a real note,
thank you, Sean.
I've had so much personal growth since I first met Cynthia. And, it really helps to have people in our lives that really call us forward into truth, not so much healing the symptoms of an illness, but getting to the core root cause of it. And when I say illness, I don't mean
dis-ease,
I'm actually talking about, discordant things that we're thinking about our reality, about ourselves, about other people, certain patterns that repeat in our lives that we got to stop if we want to move on. And, it does lead into a more holistic experience. Excuse me. A more holistic experience of our connection to the body. For example, if you have some ancestral sorrow that you need to let out. For me, for example, part of my family's from the Blackfeet tribe, and there was a lot of sorrow that came up from my lower back that I didn't even realize was out there. Mm-hmm. And after I released, there's a lot of crying. It was loud, and but it felt really good afterwards, and my back wasn't as sore. Mm-hmm. And so many things that we experience, we don't even realize are related to emotions, to memories, and related to other times and spaces, our ancestors.
Trauma points.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it really, it's a good awareness to know that what you do now also affects your future generations. And, and you can affect your past generations as well. Mm-hmm. Time is really fluid. And, you can write the future, but you can also change the past.
You can also rewrite the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
fun.
That's really interesting. And, it takes a good heart to do that. And, Cynthia really helps with that. So I highly recommend, and, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's an investment not only in when you seek the help of an alternative practitioner such as myself. I mean, the training that I have is very unique, and the background I have is very unique. I have a background in psychology, so I understand, and it's not even just that. It's not so much the education that I have. It's how I've used what I know to learn how to do it for myself so that I can help other people understand how to do it. Because reading it in a book isn't the practical application of it. Mm-hmm. I apply these things practically every single day of my life in my own inner process. And so in that, I'm in integrity with really, truly being able to help you. And where was I going with that? But yeah, it's not just in it, like Sheldon was saying, It's not just an investment in your own experience here and now. It's an investment in your future. It's an investment in repairing some of the trauma points in your past in this lifetime, or all of them, but the work is up to you. You have to do the work. Okay. I'm the facilitator. We co-facilitate, but you're the one doing the work. And you have to be willing and ready to do that in order to really work with a practitioner such as myself, but I can get you started, I can give you the nudges. And the thing is that I support the best in people. And I think Sheldon can speak to that. And those are the stories that I choose to write about people. And I tell you what I see in you, and even the things that you don't see in yourself, I see them, and when you invest in that type of thing for yourself, like Sheldon said, that's where I was going with that. You're investing in the future generations of the planet. They don't even have to be your bloodline, but also, in healing the things that are ancestral, and there's all kinds of information online about this stuff now, the epigenetics and quantum healing and all of that. And it's so important to really now more than ever take charge of your experience in a holistic way, and ripple that out, not only into your own bloodline and your own past lives and your own soul's experience, but out into the collective. Because those of us who are really stridently doing our healing work and transformational work, we are working in the collective, because we are that too, we are never separate, even though it seems like we are. And we have an impact. It kind of ties it back full circle to what I'm talking about. All things that we choose with this beautiful gift of free will have an impact on the collective, because we are that. We are. So remember that. So what is Brooke saying? I moved a ton of ancestral rape trauma, and I'm not terrified of platonic or casual touch. Oh, that's so beautiful. There's more, though. I can feel it. Well, hey, Brooke, if you feel guided to work with me, I'm available. I'm doing virtual sessions right now. I'm not receiving anybody at the sanctuary, because that's a responsible thing for me to do. And we're a month out now at this point. So I'm in social distancing for a month, and I do have a little bit of a cough, and I'm just being as responsible as I can be with my own health and with the health of everyone. So I'm available via virtual video session, and it's equally as powerful, and you can be in the comfort of your own home. So, you don't have to travel to be here. And then after, sometimes it's kind of nice to be able to just lay down and have a nap after we do the work. Sometimes I do too. So, reach out to me privately, Brooke, if you would like to work on that, because I have spots. I got some time. Yeah. Kids don't have to go back to school. So, okay. So as far as an alignment, do I want to do an energetic alignment? No, I'm not feeling that today. Okay. So what I'm going to ask each and every one of you to do for your alignment. Okay. Whether you can do that now. Thank you, Brooke. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm here to help. So how I want you, all of you, to align today, if it feels good for you, after we sign off here, whenever you can, at some point, grab a piece of paper and write down some of the projected thought patterns that people have projected onto you. Okay. And then just really have a look at that. And then I also want you to write down some of the projected thought patterns or narratives that you've written about other people. Okay. And have a look at that and ask yourself, what parts of this stuff is true for me? That's your responsibility. What is true for me in all of this? And where do I hold responsibility for what's mine? And maybe make some reparations in places with other people where you haven't been fair and where you have been judgmental and where you've written stories about them that haven't been supportive and kind and loving and compassionate. And really have a look at, how can I do better here? That's what I'd like you to align with today. Okay. Your personal integrity and how you want to take those next steps forward into this new world that will be emerging. We get to choose. So what footsteps are you walking and rippling out on this planet and into the collective? And for me personally, I'm walking the footsteps of love in every way that I can, in every moment possible, but I'm being honest and genuine and real. Okay, it's done. That's cool. That's okay.
Just
Yeah, apparently that's all I needed to say.
Well, YouTube is still going.
Yeah. Okay. So let's keep going on YouTube.
Hey,
Okay.
YouTube.
So yeah, thanks for remembering that YouTube is still
Yeah.
going. So, but in that, what I was saying was I'm being honest and genuine and real about, the very human experience that I'm having. I'm not trying to be lofty or better than, or, any of that. I'm having the human experience. And when I need to vent, I vent. And, that's important to remember that yes, we are human and we're not perfect, but we are.
Mhm.
So yes, going forward, please do those things for yourself and for one another. And if there's conversations that you need to have, please do that lovingly, or write a letter. If the conversation feels too tricky for you, write a loving letter where you can offer a compassionate perspective, and maybe even seek to be understood a little bit better yourself. So that's all for today. Thank you so much, Sheldon, for being on my Teddy Talk.
Yeah, thanks, Cynthia, for having me on
You're
your
welcome.
Teddy Talk.
And thank you for your affirmations in regards to my skill set and presence as a healing practitioner here. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. So we got cut off on Facebook, but we got to continue a little further here.
YouTube exclusive.
Yeah, right. Exclusive.
Okay.
Just for YouTube. All right.
Thanks
Thanks for
everyone.
joining. We love you all. Have a great day.